Hey Omnibus Collectors, it's Riley and Chewy, and we are back with another Omnibus of the Week. I hope you guys have been doing okay. As Joe Walsh liked to say, life's been good to me so far. So this week I'm coming to you with something that I've been requested to do a video about a lot in the past, and that would be the New Avengers by Brian Michael Bendis. So right off the bat, let me get off of the top of my head, the one thing that everyone's going to be talking, or I might get some comments about, is it is New Avengers Volume 1, and it came out back in 2012, but there is no Volume 2, and that'll be the topic for another day. So, New Avengers Volume 1, it collects a lot of materials, so just checking it out real quick. From the back of the dust jacket, we can see this collects issues number 500 through 503 of Avengers, plus the Avengers finale, and then it has 1 through 31 of New Avengers, as well as annual number 1. And then we've got a lot of different material, New Avengers Most Wanted files, New Avengers Custom 676, Army and Air Force, Giant Size Spider-Woman number 1, New Avengers Illuminati number 1, Civil War The Confession number 1, and Civil War The Initiative number 1. So there's a lot of material in this book, basically taking us through the first half of the first volume of New Avengers. So the basic idea behind the New Avengers is this is the beginning of Brian Bendis's whole run on the Avengers, which was around 200 or so issues, all in total, with all the different series that he did. It started from Avengers Disassembled, which was the little event series that he did to finish off the previous Avengers, from, like, they had just gotten to issue 500. And it was a big event where some stuff goes down, and basically the Avengers break up. There's a lot of negative things, let's just say, for the sake of not getting into spoilers, some negative things happen, and the Avengers wind up breaking up. So what happens? Some stuff goes down after that, some more negative stuff, and there is a need for the Avengers to exist. So there's a new team that's kind of haberdashed together in a rush, and they decide that things work out, so they decide to officially make themselves a team, and that's where we get the book The New Avengers. And this, like I said, collects the first 31 issues of that series, which gets us through about the first half of the actual series, going from, Avengers Disassembled through the end of Civil War, right up to the Secret Invasion. So we get a lot of, material about a lot of different stuff in there, and there's a lot of really cool things in there, including the issues of Civil War. And those issues themselves are going to be, because we have the Civil War movie, which is Captain America 3, that's coming out soon. Those are going to be really poignant issues right now, dealing with plot lines that are, important at the moment. So there's a lot of good material in there. And on top of, a lot of good writing, we also have a lot of great artists in there. The first one being David Finch, then we get Steve McNiven, Frank Cho, Mike Deodato, Lionel Yu, and there's some other artists in there as well. There's a bunch of different artists that appear within this book, and it's a lot of great work. They do a lot of good stuff in there. But it's Bendis who does the writing, and Bendis has his very signature style of writing that it's kind of divisive. There are people that absolutely hate him. There's people that absolutely love him. I more often than not enjoy what he writes. I'm not going to say that he's, got godly writing talents of, superhero comics or something, but he has a way of writing that I think is just plain entertaining, and he writes books that are easy reads. They're the kind of books that, you start reading and it's easy to get engulfed and not want to put the book down, and they're fast reads too. Ultimate Spider-Man's this way, this book New Avengers is this way, Alias was that way, his X-Men stuff is that way. They're very quick, engrossing reads, and that's not to say that they're not dense and that there's not a lot of writing going on every issue, because there's a lot of word bubbles, and that's one of the things he's known for, is having, drawn out conversations. But there's a lot going on, and it's very, very easy to read, which I think is something really great. It's not always plot dense. which is nice because sometimes you just need something to sit back and relax with and you don't really want to think about it. And that's, I think, one thing that Bendis is typically good for, is giving you a story that is pretty much surface. You know, it's not something that you're going to be sitting there and thinking like that you have to unwrap the layers and delve into it. And it's all surface. It's all about the characters. It's all about the character interactions. And I think personally that he does a really great job of doing interactions between characters, and that's one of the things that I think he's strong with. A lot of people will say that his characters wind up being talking heads, that a lot of his characters have the same voices and stuff, but overall I think that he does a really entertaining job with this stuff, and in the past I've been more often entertained with him than I have been not entertained. So I have to say that as a whole, I do enjoy Brian Bendis, and I really enjoy what he did in this book. Now, I can't speak for the second half of New Avengers because I have yet to have read that stuff. I do have it. I picked up the oversized hardcovers a while back. I have yet to have sat down and read them, but I do plan on doing that very soon, so I can make a follow-up video to this one about the latter half of stuff that has not been collected in an omnibus. So anyway, if you are a fan of Brian Bendis, I know that this is a book that you're really going to love, and it's a nice thick volume. The cover price is $125. It's one that, even though it's been out for 3+ years already, it is still readily in print, and it goes for very low prices. So it's one that you should not have any trouble getting your hands on. So if you want something that's just a nice, decently cheap, quick, fun read, I think that this is a really good one to go to. And it's also, this is kind of the main book for a while. Bendis's Avengers is really the main Marvel book. For the time that he was writing the book, this is the one that if you were going to read one book from Marvel, this was the one that you would want to read. This is where all the big things happen. This is where all the big events spin out of. This is where we saw, spinning out the Civil War. We see Secret Invasion spinning out of this, and it has big ties to Siege, because Bendis was the one that was writing most of those big events. So there was one book around this time that you would want to pick up. I would say it was probably going to be the New Avengers. Now let's take a look on the inside of the book. All right, so we're going to take a quick look at the dust jacket. The spine is not just the normal black with the title on it. It does have a design to it. This is the way that all the volumes of the series, especially the oversized hardcovers, they had this lightning motif going on. It's got the New Avengers title, a bunch of the creators that are in there, and then we get the characters on the spine, and that's obviously this image right here, and the lightning is supposed to mirror this right here. This is the image to the first cover for the series. And then on the back, we get the a cover roll of all the issues that are included here. At the top, that's going to be your issue list. I already went through what was in there, and then we get some information down here, pricing and all that. On the inside, we've got disassembled, reassembled, mightier than ever, and a description of all the material that's in the book. And then on the other side, we get our creator profiles, starting with Brian Bendis, and then the artists, David Finch, Steve McNiven, Frank Cho, Mike Deodato, and Lionel Yu. There are a few other artists that wind up working on the book as well. And the book itself. This is the old style of Marvel Omnibus, so it has that kind of faux leather design to it with the title embossed in here. So it's a black faux leather with the red embossing. And then on the spine, we get the title again, the Marvel Omnibus logo over here, and then all the creators and the volume 1 insignia. There's nothing on the back, it's just blank black. We have a title page featuring the Sentry. Bendis did not create the Sentry, but he did wind up reintroducing him in a really big way in New Avengers that kind of put him at the forefront of the Marvel Universe. And then here we have the contents pages where you get to look at all the different issues that are collected in here and the different creators that worked on them. So you can see, what artists were present. David Finch would be the artist that did Avengers Disassembled, and he also did the first arc of New Avengers, and then we get Steve McNiven after him, and there's a bunch of different artists that work on those, so you can see all the different. I really like the way that they did the title pages here, because they do break it up by each issue, and you can see who was involved. Some of the books don't wind up doing that. Marvel's really good about that, about doing these really nice title pages so you can get a good handle on which creators are working on here. And then down here we of course get the credits on who worked on this book itself, and then it goes straight into the story. So this is the cover of issue number 500 of the Avengers. This is the beginning of the Avengers Disassembled storyline. So we get some nice David Finch artwork. If you are a fan of his, then there's a lot of his work in here for you to enjoy. I don't want to spoil too much, but I just want to show off some nice spreads of artwork so you can get an idea of what the book looks like. It's a really nice spread here with the Scarlet Witch. Some nice Doctor Strange. Then we get into the main series starting issue number 1. There's a brief rundown of what happened previously in Avengers Disassembled, and then it goes straight into the story. And action pretty much begins immediately. We get to see some of the former Avengers, and they're discussing stuff, and then, you know, of course that leads towards catastrophe happens, and that's where the new team is formed. So this book was really important. Bendis did a lot of cool stuff here because, you know, he did have the main members. He did have Captain America, he did have Iron Man, and Thor, but he really put a lot of focus on, number one, bringing Spider-Man to the team. Spider-Man had been a member of the Avengers before, but this is where he was really a mainstay member of the team, an important member of the team, which is really cool because Bendis is a pretty good writer for the character. He does a good job with him, and it's nice to have, you know, Spider-Man be a member of something bigger. So this was where we really saw him take off as being a member of the Avengers. And as well, even more importantly, he put a lot of spotlight on Luke Cage. Luke Cage before this had, you know, he had a following, but pretty much ever since the Power Man and Iron Fist series, the Heroes for Hire stuff ended, Luke Cage was kind of not really an A-lister in the Marvel Universe. And Bendis really moved towards fixing that, moved towards giving Luke Cage an important part in the Marvel Universe, and he really did become an important character here in the pages of New Avengers. Bendis really uses Luke in a lot of stuff. He also obviously used him in Alias, and this, you know, popularization of the character is really what's been leading towards him getting his own Netflix series, which we're going to see pretty soon. As well, we got Wolverine as a member of the Avengers. I believe this is the first, if I'm wrong, feel free to correct me, but I believe this is the first point in which Logan is a member of the main Avengers team. There have been some mutants on the Avengers before, but at this point, Bendis kind of makes Wolverine a really big member, and he's always been a member of the Avengers since this point. He's always been a major member of the team. And here's a nice cover where we get a good look at several of the characters that wind up being featured in here. I already mentioned Spider-Man, and I mentioned Wolverine. I also mentioned Iron Man and Captain America. We've got Jessica Drew, Spider-Woman, front and center here. She was also a big part of Bendis's Avengers stuff. He did a short solo run with her, I believe. I haven't read that, but I know that he did do some focus on her. On the other side here, we've got the Sentry. I did mention that he brings Sentry kind of in the forefront. He did not create the character, as I said, but he did kind of popularize him and put him out where people were really aware that he was a character that existed. And then we've got over here is the Ronin. His identity was a big mystery to the series, and I'm not going to spoil it here. If you already know, that's cool. If you don't, his identity is kind of something that's kept under wraps. You don't really know who it is that's under the mask here, but it is pretty cool once you find out. There's some nice art with the Sentry front and center, kind of, you know, displaying what I said about him utilizing the Sentry as a really important character of this run. There's a cover with Ronin as the focal point. There's a nice spread with some Ronin versus the Hand Ninjas action. There's another spread with the team about to go up against a bunch of hand ninjas. There's a nice Carol Danvers, Miss Marvel. This was well before the time that Carol Danvers became Captain Marvel, so we get her in her old Miss Marvel swimsuit costume, basically. Then the annual number 1, as the cover suggests, this one's a big one where Luke Cage winds up marrying Jessica Jones. Nice spread. And look who we have right there. And then this book features the first one-shot of the New Avengers Illuminati. This is where the whole idea of the Marvel Illuminati is introduced. And it's kind of a big retcon. As you can see here, we get the older costume on the characters. Because this happens, they kind of retcon it to have happened years back, like at the beginning of the Marvel Universe. We get these big minds and these big players in the Marvel Universe coming together to decide that certain things need to be done to protect Earth and the universe from certain threats. And of course, this is something that plays out down the line. There is a Illuminati 5-issue miniseries, and then the Illuminati, of course, is a huge part of Jonathan Hickman's run on the Avengers and New Avengers. And then moving forward, the book starts tying into the Civil War event. The main event, of course, happens in its own miniseries written by Mark Millar. But there are several issues within this volume that tie into Civil War. So we see kind of perspectives from the various members of the team as to what's going on. And of course, we know that the whole Civil War was about the Superhero Registration Act, and you know, Cap was not for it, while Iron Man was for it. So we get several issues about the different characters and which side they're going towards. And it kind of goes forward into a really good culmination for this first volume, because we see the culmination of Civil War itself, and then a little bit of what's going to happen in the aftermath. So then the next one is focusing on Luke Cage. There's one on Spider-Woman. There's one for the Sentry. We get Iron Man, and we also see we've got Maria Hill behind him. Bendis introduced us to Maria Hill, and he also makes S.H.I.E.L.D. a really important of the Avengers franchise throughout his run. And it's kind of here where we got a bunch of, you know, the interaction between the superhero world with the Avengers and all them with, you know, the S.H.I.E.L.D. and their organizations and stuff. And Bendis actually went off to spin off Secret Warriors, which he co-wrote the first 6 issues with Jonathan Hickman, which would go on to be the main writer of that series. And then going forward after Civil War, we get into kind of this last chunk of material here. There's a lot of back matter in there, obviously. But this last chunk of issues is kind of post-Civil War and kind of the state of the Avengers at the time. At this point in the story, we would see Bendis split off the Avengers into a new team. One of them is kind of a government-sanctioned team, while the other one is not. So the other book wound up being the Mighty Avengers. So we'll see, you know, the bulk of the team kind of continue on their adventures in this book and through the second half of the New Avengers title. And then there's the secondary title of Mighty Avengers, which he wrote for the first 20 issues. It would be taken over by Dan Slott afterwards. There's a nice look at the post-Civil War New Avengers team. And then, as I mentioned, there was that government-sanctioned Mighty Avengers team, so we get a look at who was on that team up at the top here, as they're about to go head-to-head with the, quote, illegal Avengers team on the bottom half of the page. And there's some more nice spreads with some hand ninjas. There's always good images with all the hand ninjas. And that takes us to the end of this volume right here. As I mentioned, there is no second volume as of yet. You can get the rest of this series across a few oversized hardcovers, but the rest of this book is all back matter. So there is a good amount, just checking that out right here. There is a really nice amount of back matter. There's, first, as always, we're going to get a bunch of variant covers here. That was a bunch of connecting covers. There is a lot of variant covers for this series. And then it goes into the you know, S.H.I.E.L.D. files, most wanted files. So this is like about all their villains and whatnot. Just showing off a bunch of Avengers villains and their profiles and whatnot. And then we get into, this is Avengers number 500 Director's Cut. So we get some scripting in there. Here's some original layouts that Bendis put together for Scarlet Witch montage. Interviews. Some processes from David Finch. And then we get this nice look at every single cover from issue number 1, every issue of the Avengers through number 500. And then there's a nice little Fred Hembeck silly comic in there. New Avengers number 1 director's cut. Some, Brian Bendis talking about each of the pages and the writing and whatnot. There's a little who's who of the villains. Some profiles of the villains that were featured in that first issue of the New Avengers. Some pencils. There's some pencil and ink. And a cover from Wizard magazine. Some more Wizard covers. And that's the end of the book. So that's the New Avengers Omnibus Volume 1 by Brian Michael Bendis. Let me know if you liked the video. I really hope you enjoyed me talking about this. If you haven't already read this series, or maybe you're looking to upgrade, I hope this video helps you to make up your mind to decide to buy that volume. I personally, as I mentioned here, I personally love the book. I think it was a great volume, very well put together, and a very great story. Hopefully, with this video, you might decide to pick it up as well. Try it out, see if you dig it. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching. It always means a lot to me to have you people, you guys and gals, spending time with me, watching my videos, hanging with me, and I appreciate it so much. So thank you so much for watching the video. If you are not subscribed to me, if this is your first time watching one of my videos, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. You'll see more videos regularly like this one. I have a few other segments that I do. Go ahead and hit subscribe. Check out the other videos I have. Hopefully you'll enjoy those as well. If you are a subscriber, like, comment, share, let all your friends see. If you have friends that you think would enjoy my videos, let them see this stuff. But as always, thank you so much for spending time with us. Thank you for watching me and Chewy here. And I'll see you next time. You guys stay classy.